Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are live, and tonight we go racing under the lights at the Daytona International Speedway on NASCAR 06 Total Team Control. Another Busch Series race coming your way as we try to get Kyle Busch's dream season. And I say dream season because statistically it has been a dream season that any driver would want to have. A 3.4 average finish through 15 races, in which in those 15 races, 6 wins have been scored, 14 top 10s, and 12 top 5 finishes for Kyle Busch so far this year. He has a massive points lead, 380 over second place Clint Boyer in the standings. Now it's time to see if he will grow that lead out once again today as we go to yet another Super Speedway race this season. It is the 4th Super Speedway race of the year, the second one at Daytona, out of 6 on the season total between the Super Speedways, and 3 total races at Daytona this year. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content as we get into tonight's full race live stream, realistic commentary coverage. One race on the stream for you guys today, no doubleheader tonight. We're going to get into this thing very quickly and first kick things off with qualifying, so we'll see where Kyle Busch will start for today's race. Mark DeMars, Blub, and others, welcome into the stream, and we'll see. This is not a good track for me in this game. I'm sure it's pretty well documented, so we'll go for the best. And not just in this game, I should say in the EA Sports games in general, Daytona's not good for me. Now, the good news is I have won a Busch Series race at Daytona before. It was actually with Dale Jr. in the season opener in our Do It For Dale Busch Series season. That is the only win I've ever had at Daytona in the NASCAR EA Sports games across the Busch, Truck, and Cup Series. That is the only one that I have ever won. So we will see if I can get a second Busch Series win at Daytona on an EA Sports game today. This would be the first night race, though. 100 laps, 250 miles in the Winn-Dixie 250 at Daytona tonight. As Kyle Busch is working his way up to speed right now. No practice for today's race, just hopping into qualifying and then hopping into the race right after. This lap will count. We'll see how fast Kyle Busch will be. He's had fast cars on the Super Speedways this season. He's had good finishes, just hasn't gotten a win on a Super Speedway yet. He's finished in the top 10, all 3 of them. And 2 top 5s. Ice Demon King, 92 Hammer. Patrick Shadley, also welcome into the stream. Pretty good lap going for Busch so far, at least heading into turns 3 and 4. We'll see if he can continue to have a good lap. Car really floats around quite a bit in the middle of the corner. These bumps throw the car everywhere around this Daytona surface in 2005. Not a bad lap, though. 8th quickest on lap 1. 49.726 at the line was the time to lap. Trying to keep this car smooth. A better second lap, at least through the first half of the lap. He is tracking for the pole right now, heading into turn 3. Really goes to show that Kyle Busch has great single car speed once again here today. Off of turn 4, he's still tracking as he heads towards the start-finish line into the tri-oval. 49.549, 3rd quickest, so close to that pole for Kyle Busch, but it will be Dale Jr. who will be actually starting on the pole in today's race. That was close. I thought I had it, honestly. I came down into the tri-oval, went down to the apron there at the last second. I was doing everything I could. It was a good lap. Dale Jr.'s just a little bit faster. No surprise. I mean, Dale Jr. in the mid-2000s Super Speedway, he had fast cars. So it said I qualified 3rd. I think I tied for 2nd. And it gave it to me, I believe. I need to see that again. I'm a little confused. Yeah, it definitely improved from lap 1 to lap 2. Yeah, I tied with Mark Martin, so we might actually be starting 2nd. I had the same exact lap time to the 1,000th of a second as Mark Martin, and I believe I was just 24 1,000ths of a second off of Dale Jr. for the pole time. So we'll see. We might be starting second. Okay, we are third. Okay, so I don't know what determines the tiebreaker. Probably practice time, and I did not practice. So Mark Martin will be starting in second place for today's race. Kyle Busch giving Dale Jr. a big push on that bottom lane right off the start. And now Busch pulling out of line down to the bottom of the racetrack into turns 1 and 2 as he gets underneath Earnhardt. Already 3 wide behind these guys. Ryan Newman to the inside of the 60 of Carl Edwards, the 9 of Mark Martin, and Dale Jr. set sail off turn 2 as he's getting way out ahead of the leaders. Mark Martin back into second again. Kyle Busch going to go down, trying to block Shane Meal, does so successfully. Didn't want to give up that bottom lane. He bump drafted Dale Jr. on the start, and he pushed him so far out ahead, and it kind of stalled the 5 out in the process of that. Busch trying to get somebody to drop in line in front of him. Ryan Newman staying on the outside right now. Martin closing in on Earnhardt, but it's a 2-car breakaway at the front of the field. Dale Jr. from the pole leads lap 1. Truex up the middle between Bobby Labonte and Carl Edwards, trying to get to 5th in line behind Kyle Busch. Shane Meal on the outside, and big block by Kyle Busch, trying to stall out the lanes, and now trying to stay in the draft with the 39 of Newman. Mark Martin looking for the lead in turns 3 and 4 on Earnhardt. Martin won our most recent Talladega race, trying to get back-to-back super speedway wins in the Busch Series. Sitting at 8 different winners so far through 15 races rather in the Busch Series season so far. Kyle Busch out of the gas going into turn 1. He had a big run on Ryan Newman. Newman left the bottom open long enough. If Busch really wanted to get underneath him, he could have, but he wasn't looking to. Being patient here. Carl Edwards side drafting Bobby Labonte as he's still side by side for position with him. 9/10 of a second off the lead is Kyle Busch in 4th. And Mark Martin trying to pull away from Dale Jr. at the front of the field. Martin Truex Jr. in 5th still, right behind Busch. So you have 3 Chevys, 1 Ford, and 1 Dodge in the top 5. And another Ford in 6 as Edwards is all clear of Bobby Labonte. And now Labonte and John Hamilton are side by side for 7th. Again, Busch out of the gas quite a bit going into the corner. Ryan Newman not really running that inside lane in turns 1 and 2 on the bottom of the racetrack, and that is costing Kyle Busch because he does not want to be the lead car. Wants to be the trail car in this draft. And Newman now to the outside in turns 3 and 4 as well. Single file through most of the top 10 now. Juggalo Homeboy, thanks for tuning in. Billy Kramer also welcome into the stream. It's a wild comment there from Juggalo. Edwards drafting with Kyle Busch on the outside, has a run. These guys are closing in on Dale Jr. I don't think Ryan Newman's as quick as Kyle Busch would like him to be. Oh, wow. Busch out of the gas and into the wall. He second-guessed himself. He went to go down to the bottom, didn't realize Martin Truex was there until the last second. And Busch did a good job keeping it off of the 8 car. Didn't cause a wreck, but unfortunately Kyle Busch ended up falling back a spot, and he still lost momentum, still trying to pick it up. He's only up to 180. Quickly down to the bottom as he chops off Bobby Labonte. Now Stewart moves to the outside, and John Hamilton's going to get by. That was a big mistake from Kyle Busch. Right when they were catching Dale Jr., too. He had to check up for Newman going into the corner, which was why Truex had to run underneath him again, but unfortunately, didn't realize he was there. A little contact back there off of turn 4. Kenny Wallace and then whoever was on his outside almost got together. Busch back to 8th. Losing 5 spots from the start of the race already after qualifying 3rd. And even getting into 2nd quickly in turns 1 and 2 on the initial start. I was on the apron for 1 race. You make it much more of a big deal than what it actually is. Seems like everybody's really wanting to run the outside that Kyle Busch tries to draft with, and I'm even noticing like Truex and Edwards up on the outside. Tony Stewart's running the bottom. Kyle Busch would like to work with him. Kyle gonna bump draft John Hamilton on the back straightaway. Got to make sure you hit square with these Gen 4 cars. It's a lot harder to line the cars up. Than more modern NASCAR stock cars. Edwards almost brushed the wall off turn 4 up ahead. Looks like Mark Martin's got the car to beat. Earnhardt led the first lap, and then Mark Martin's led every lap from lap 2 on and just pulled away from Dale Jr. Kyle Busch having to lift going into the corners to try to keep the car from getting into the wall. His car is not handling well on the outside lane. Handles better on the bottom. It's a little too tight in that dirty air when he gets really close behind a car. That stream was literally 3 nights ago, too. You run that race on Tuesday night. Truex has been passed by Carl Edwards, Tony Stewart. Truex trying to get back around the 60 of Edwards. Really 2nd through 8, slowly starting to bunch back together again. It's looking like Kyle Busch in the 2008 Daytona 500 that we were watching yesterday. Got a much superior car than everybody else. That's what Mark Martin's like today. Slingshot pass going into the corner for Kyle Busch as he gets by the 120 of John Hamilton. Just close enough to stay in line behind Carl Edwards in the 60, hopefully. Hamilton's starting to lose Kyle Busch. It's a little bit in the draft. 47.718, that last lap for Busch, his fastest of the day through 10 laps. And now another pass down to the bottom of the racetrack. Look at the run Kyle Busch has. He gets by Edwards, he gets by Truex. And Tony Stewart, who's running the bottom, is the next car in front of him. Got by 2 cars that corner. That was great. Busch has a massive run behind Tony Stewart. He's going to bump draft him on the backstretch. Giving Smoke a big shot heading into turn 3. We'll see if Stewart Busch may be able to work together to get by the 39, the 81. See how defensive Newman may try to get. We know Newman being very difficult to pass. And he'll stay on the outside. Earnhardt does pull to the bottom. Oh, wow, Busch got really tight. He didn't lift. It's going to keep the momentum up. Stewart to the back bumper of Dale Jr. for 2nd. So Busch has worked his way up to 4th. Got a couple of slow cars on the racetrack right now. May have a couple drivers that blew engines maybe simultaneously. Tony Stewart, Dale Jr. nose to tail. Well, they work together to try to pull away from everybody else. Mark Martin's got about a 2.5 second lead right now. Big run for Busch. Oh, wow. Tony hesitated. Good thing he did not block. Waited a little bit longer in the middle of the corner, and he was able to get back down to the bottom in front of the 5. Busch did lift a little bit, though, too. He was kind of hesitant, thinking Tony Stewart was going to come down. Busch going to back up and get a pretty big run now in the tri-oval. Looking to the outside of Tony Stewart. Now slings down to the bottom of the racetrack. Gets underneath Dale Jr. as well. Side by side for position. Trying to side draft Earnhardt. Force him potentially into a mistake. Slides into third right in front of Stewart. Truex with a run now to the inside of the 33. So now Earnhardt is in second. Busch wants him to run the inside of the racetrack, but I don't think he's going to. Stewart in the wall, off turn 4. Truex is all clear for position. Tony trying to get back into it again. Kyle Busch to the inside of Dale Jr. for position. Busch to second. Earnhardt right back into second place on his own right. Busch does not want these Chance 2 Motorsport cars to get together because they may team up on everybody. That'd be Dale Jr. and Martin Truex Jr. They are teammates in both the Busch and the Cup Series. Stewart to the inside of the 8. Big run for Kyle Busch. We'll take our first field pass at the start-finish line. We'll go to the 57 of Brian Vickers. He is in 14th right now. Vickers wants to clear up on the 138. He couldn't do it. Now he's clear. Brian Vickers trailing just behind, or I should say Clint Bowyer trailing just behind Brian Vickers. 138 goes down to block the 2. I'd have to imagine it's going to be a 2 pit stop race today. Should be pretty straightforward. Vickers going low. Hoping that next car in front of him goes to the bottom. Bobby Labonte's fallen back quite a bit. He's at 11th. So Vickers is going to try to work with as he drives up to 12th. Remember, Brian Vickers won the season opener. If I remember correctly, I think he won the season opener at Daytona. He did win a race this season. And I'm thinking it was Daytona. I'd have to go back and check when we get to the first pit stops or the first caution, whatever happens first. Say what now? We'll go back to Kyle Busch in the 5, slowly pulling away. It looks like Dale Jr.'s dropped back a couple spots here. Both Edwards and Stewart have gotten by him, at least for right now. Kyle Busch still 2.5 seconds off the race lead. We'll go back to Brian Vickers in the 57 again. We'll just get both field passes out of the way in the early going. like Vickers has gotten by Labonte for 11th as well. And Labonte with a run on the outside gets by Vickers, and Vickers will pull back in line behind him. Vickers looking low underneath the 19. Bobby Labonte. And back to Kyle Busch for the rest of the race will go. .2 seconds behind Mark Martin, who is just pulling away from the rest of the field right now. Tony Stewart has a run underneath Edwards. Edwards hesitated in trying to block. Kyle Busch going to run the outside intentionally through turns 3 and 4. He's able to do it without having to lift when there's no cars in front of him. He's going to let Tony Stewart go so he can then be the trail car. He clipped the apron a little bit, barely kept it off the wall. Stayed in the gas, though. He was committed. He didn't want to lose Stewart. Luckily, he kept it off the wall. Otherwise, he probably would have lost Tony Stewart. Notice Stewart was running the bottom. Pretty much unlike any other driver in the field outside of Busch. That's why Kyle, when he saw Tony really get to the inside of Carl, he was just going to try to stay on the outside in front of the 60, let Stewart go. Now he's trying to get back to the 33. He's going to get a push from Edwards. That'll help. Over 3.5 seconds back. About halfway out of fuel at this point in the run as we're at lap 22. It's crazy how competitive really everybody from second on back is. And then Mark Martin is just light years ahead of everybody. He's definitely going to be the one to beat. We'll see if anybody will be able to do it. Kyle Busch to bump draft Stewart back straightaway. Into turns 3 and 4. Busch going to try to be aggressive with Stewart with that bump drafting. Mainly on the back straightaway in hopes that they can eventually try to run down Mark Martin. Busch lifts, going into the corner. Didn't want to push Tony Stewart on entry. Big shot that time. Just going into turn 3. Tony does seem like he's a little bit quicker than Busch, which is why Kyle's having a hard time trying to really stay with him. For letting the 33 go. Tony Stewart's won a lot of Busch Series races at Daytona. Would not be shocked if he's going to win another one yet today. Be his 3rd win of the Busch Series season, which is impressive because he has not ran the full schedule like the Busch Series regulars or even a couple of the Cup guys like Bobby Labonte and Kyle Busch, Brian Vickers have ran the full season, but Tony Stewart has not. He and Tony Raines been splitting rides, and some of the time neither one is in the race. So Tony trying to make the most of it. At least every race he is in this car. Busch into the wall. That time he got a little too tight. Edwards is going to have a run at him in the tri-oval. Busch is going to have to throw a half block that time. He didn't want to go all the way down to the bottom and risk losing the 33. 60 pulled up in line just behind him, though, and that helps Busch get another run going into 1 and 2 to try to keep up with Stewart. Busch getting a little tight that time. Lifted to keep it off the wall that go around. Edwards again back in line behind Busch. Busch is barely keeping up with Stewart still. Still going to need a little extra help from Carl Edwards, though, if Kyle's going to want to stay with the 33. So close to getting back in close proximity behind Stewart, but he's also so close to losing him at the same time. Sam Monty, thanks for tuning in. Thoughts on Kane? Are you talking about Casey Kane? Oh, he's a Kanye. I don't know. I don't really know much about the guy. I know he's in the, I feel like he's in the news quite often, but I don't really watch the news, so. It's going to get by Kyle Busch. He's trying to run down Tony Stewart. Quarter tank of fuel left this point in the run. Kyle Busch trying to stay with the 60 of Edwards. 29 laps in, still caution free tonight at Daytona. Well, Busch is going to be able to keep up with Edwards, but Edwards is running the top. It'll be interesting to see if they can get to Tony Stewart. They're definitely losing Mark Martin again. They meaning Edwards and Busch, at least. Maybe Stewart's closing in, not entirely sure. Bump draft on the 60. Edwards running more of the middle lane that time through 3 and 4 rather than all the way up near the wall in the top. Getting close to our first set of green flag pit stops today, though. Busch trying to get Carl Edwards to run the bottom of the racetrack. Running just a lane off the bottom now. Again, more towards that middle lane in turns 1 and 2 once again. Now Carl's running the inside, along with Tony Stewart. Busch to the inside of Edwards. Edwards tried to squeeze the 5. Tony Stewart with a bad block. Kyle Busch slides in the middle of the corner and hangs onto his car. That was not a good block by Tony Stewart. He was not clear of the 5 of Kyle Busch. Busch clipped the apron, knocked him sideways after the fact. Made a great save But he is going to lose both Edwards and Stewart, who are drafting with each other right now. Busch slides in front of the 8 of Truex. Going to try to slow him down just a little bit before letting the 8 in front of him so then he can draft off of Truex. Now he's going to let the 8 go in the tri-oval. Truex going to have to get by him quick, though, so that way Kenny Wallace doesn't get by to the inside either. Wallace does get underneath the 5. Truex to the outside in turns 1 and 2. Right front tire starting to go away on the 5 of Kyle Busch. I've noticed Tony Stewart's throwing some bad blocks on us in both the Busch Series with Kyle Busch this season and the Cup Series as well with Greg Biffle. Busch back to 6th. He's kind of fluctuated between 2nd and 8th this entire race. Kenny Wallace riding the bottom at least. Busch almost in the wall off turn 4. Got some cars pitting this time. And a couple cars were already on pit road the lap before as well. So green flag pit stops at Daytona. Kyle gets into Kenny Wallace. He tried not to lift. And probably wasn't a great idea for that to happen. Poor Kenny. Busch to the outside now to let Trigger through in the 133. Unfortunately, Trigger's going to end up pitting this time off turn 4 anyway. Brian Vickers with a run to the outside of his teammate. So maybe these Hendrick teammates can end up working together then. Once Tony Stewart threw that bad block, Busch is struggling to try to find help. Good news is he's very close to pit stops, but the bad news is he's lost quite a bit of time. He's now 7.5 seconds behind race leader Mark Martin. A couple cars coming out of the pits down to the bottom of the racetrack. Brian Vickers is not quite going to be able to catch Casey Kane and Ryan Newman. Busch sliding around. Kept it off the wall. Stays in the gas as well. Tony Stewart will lead his first lap of the race as Mark Martin just pit from the lead. Vickers to the inside of Kane. Cars exiting the pits just up ahead. Big run for Kyle Busch into the corner as he gets to the outside of Casey Kane, the 138 right there. 138 sliding way wide now. Busch into the wall. Caution's out. Caution is out in the middle of green flag pit stops right after Kyle Busch got into the outside wall. Crash. Clint Boyer has spun off turn 4. Slams the right side of his car into the wall. Trouble for the second place driver in the standings, who has ran just outside the top 10 this entire race. And we've got our first caution of the night. That's going to trap quite a few drivers a lap down, and that may include the guy who's dominated the race, of Mark Martin. Now, I think Martin pitted the lap before, so I don't think he went a lap down yet. So he should actually cycle towards the front of the field. It'll be 4 tires and fuel. And no adjustments for Kyle Busch, rather. Five team gonna need a fast stop. Honestly, the grip was fine until I slid sideways when Tony Stewart threw a bad block on me and made contact. And then after that, and Mark Martin cycled back to the lead, unfortunately. The only laps he did not lead was the one lap Tony Stewart led during green flag pit stops. Kyle Busch went in the same spot he ended up coming out of the pits of the cars who did pit that time. Great restart by Busch to quickly get to the bottom. He did have to burp the throttle a little bit, which is not something you want to do when you're getting up to speed. We'll see how that might work out for him this time as he just squeezes to the inside. Now, we don't have a WL line rule. Oh, we've got a crash off of turn 2. Just saw that out of the rearview mirror. They were 3 wide and crashing off the exit of the corner. Caution is out at Daytona for the second time right after the restart. Couldn't tell who was all involved, but there were definitely some looked like Luke Trigger. Luke Trigger involved, a couple other cars obviously involved. Kyle Busch had a good restart. He got by a couple cars there. Got to the inside and then gets the quick yellow as they were getting up to speed. It's pretty sketchy. He was going 3 wide, but it worked out. Look how many spots he gained. Green flag back in the air. 5 spots gained on that last restart for Kyle Busch. Caution came out. He's got a chance to do it again. He's trying to get to the bottom. 4 wide on the restart that time as he does get to the inside. That time he didn't burp the throttle, though, like the restart before. Rides that inside lane right behind the 21. He did lift just a little bit as he closed in behind Miller. Trying to get in front of the 19 of Bobby Labonte, not really able to do so. Trying to draft off Kenny Wallace. A lot of fast cars a lap down that were running inside the top 10 prior to the first yellow, which came out in the middle of green flag stops once Clint Bowyer had spun out. Busch has lost Labonte in front of him, unfortunately. Did get 1 spot on the restart. Side draft the 135. The 113 finally moves to the bottom in front of Busch. He is a lap down. 3 wide off of turn 2, just up ahead. Allison, thanks for tuning in. Ah, man. A little tight getting into turn 3. Size E, also welcome into the stream. So Mark Martin leads again. Hopefully he doesn't get too far ahead this time. We'll see. I don't like the 113 running the outside. Busch had to lift to keep from getting underneath him. Now the 113's got a big run because there's a lot of cars on the outside in front of him, and he's starting to pull Kyle Busch off turn 2. Caution. Further back. This will stack the field up again. Our 3rd caution of the night, lap 45 now. And Clint Bowyer has crashed twice now. He clipped the apron in the middle of the corner that got him loose. And then he ended up hitting Luke Trigger, backed it into Luke Trigger, and right in front of Ryan Newman. Newman caught the back bumper of the 2. So Clint Bowyer is wrecked twice, and then Trigger goes upside down into the grass as well. Another restart coming. Clint Bowyer has brought out 2 of the 3 wrecks we've seen. The 1st and the 3rd caution. Green flag back in the air. Busch does not want to have to burp the throttle this time as he tries to get to the inside. 3 wide. Oh, got squeezed a little bit by Casey Kane. That'll slow the momentum down to the 5. He got 1 more spot, just like on the last restart. He had it, and then Casey Kane probably didn't see the 5. It's a good launch, but once we get to 4th gear, it bogs down quite a bit. Granted, we haven't really had a clean restart. 3 wide. Big block by the 135 car off the extra turn 4 with more cars behind him. We'll be halfway home this time by. It looks like somebody that just blew an engine is going to be coming back onto the racetrack. Casey Kane pops the wall going into turn 1. That's going to allow Kyle Busch to try to clear him. Can't do it. 3 wide. Middle is Busch. Car underneath him as well. It gets back to the outside, right in line, behind the 79 of Kane. Casey Kane is lapped down. Carl Edwards to the lead on his teammate, Mark Martin. So I guess the only car that is capable of trying to race Martin on speed is likely his teammate, Carl Edwards. As the Roush cars are now 1-2 at the front of the field. Martin trying to get back around him in the trioval to the inside, it appears. Case came back to 1.9 seconds off the lead again. Kyle Busch is in the wall. He tried to lift. He lifted quite a bit, really. Casey Kane riding all the way up near the wall, and Kyle Busch couldn't really do that himself. I don't want to loosen it up. The car gets tight when I'm in traffic right behind another car on the outside specifically. It doesn't get that tight when I'm on the bottom. But because so many of these cars are wanting to run the outside, if I loosen it up, I'll be able to run the top, but then I think I'll be too loose to run the bottom. Which is not going to be good if I try to make any passes in the corners, which the best chance for me is to try to get a run and move to the inside of them. By the way, this 64 car that just passed Kyle Busch is for position. And fantasy driver inside the top 5 right now, Flanagan, is the name. We're at lap 52. Time for tonight's trivia question as we're just past the halfway point in today's race. In today's Xfinity Series track fact at Daytona is this. Collectively, you guys get to answer this question as a team today. Who are the 3 NASCAR Cup Series champions to win an Xfinity race at Daytona, but not win a Cup race at Daytona? That is tonight's trivia question. Which 3 NASCAR Cup Series champions have won an Xfinity race at Daytona, but never a Cup race at Daytona? That is today's trivia question. Peanut 1, thanks for tuning in also. '64 in the 5, working to get by Casey Kane in the 79. They're not really closing in on all those guys running the bottom further up ahead, though. Because they were 2.2 seconds off the lead, now they're 2.5 seconds back. I don't know what it's going to take for them to run the inside lane. Truex is 1. Yes, you are correct. That is 1. And you guys collectively as a group get a chance to answer. You have until the end of lap 60 to try to answer correctly. But Truex is 1 of the 3. Busch was pushing all the way into turn 3. Launched the 64. Flanagan quite a bit out ahead of him. Case Kane should help push Kyle Busch to keep him up with Flanagan as much as possible. Chase Elliott is another. Kyle Busch is not correct. Kyle Busch does have a summer Daytona win in the Cup Series. But Chase Elliott is definitely another. So Chase Elliott, Truex. You guys got 2 of them. Who is the 3rd? Peanut 1 has got it. Kyle Larson. Those would be the 3. You guys actually ran through that a lot quicker than what I thought you would. But yeah, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, and Kyle Larson are the 3 NASCAR Cup Series champions to have won an Xfinity race at Daytona, but never a Cup points race at Daytona. Elliott, Truex, and Larson. The leaders will be catching that slow car at least a few times before the end of this race. If you're just tuning in, we've had 3 cautions today. on the string from the middle green flag stops around lap 35 to lap 45. We saw all the yellows take place. Kyle Busch trying to get to the outside. Gutsy move to get by the 64 rather, for position, but it panned out. Big run for Busch into turns 3 and 4 as he gets by the 138 as well. And now he's got the 20 of Brandon Miller right in front of him. And that slow car is actually coming into the pits. That was Michael Jourdain Jr., who just pitted that last time. Miller up on the outside of the racetrack right now. Kyle Busch going to get underneath him. Not for position. He'll clear him in turns 1 and 2. So the only 3 cars that are still ahead of Busch are all in the lead lap. But still nobody willing to work the inside lane. Tony Stewart was earlier, and Busch was making up a little bit of ground on Mark Martin. But the Roush Fenway Fords have been so quick today. Carl Edwards and Mark Martin. First it was Mark Martin leading a ton of laps, and now it's Carl Edwards. Since the string of cautions. 3 wide, by the way, right behind Kyle Busch. Flanagan right in the middle, too, and he's still in the middle. Casey Kane to the outside of the 5. Busch will let him in line. Jourdain just came out of the pits. Busch gonna have to ride the top. I mean, Casey's like right up near the wall too. That is not at all where Kyle Busch wants to go. .64 going to move down right in front of Kyle Busch. Leaders got held up by Jourdain just a little bit. Busch has a car underneath him at the last second of John Hamilton in the 120. Hamilton squeezes Busch into the wall. Hamilton sideways on the front stretch. Is he going to be able to gather it? He's down in the grass. But no caution. And we stay green. John Hamilton washed up the track. Kyle Busch was trying to keep it off of him. He stayed as high as he could. Casey Kane held up behind Jourdain. Kyle Busch is too far behind Flanagan. John Hamilton just lost his race car. We do stay green. Kyle Busch is now 4.9 seconds off the lead. Make that 5 seconds off the lead at the start-finish line. With 40 laps to go. He has not led today, but he's been in the top 10 the whole race. He's got a fast car. He doesn't have the fastest car. Kane to the bottom. Busch hoping to keep up with him, but as soon as Kane passes Kyle Busch, he goes straight to the outside. And I think Busch is going to lose him, unfortunately, as a result. .39 laps to go. A couple more cars starting to close in. Aaron Crocker. Busch going to the top. He's going to let Crocker go. Oh, another car's there. Busch slides, and around he goes. Caution is going to fly for the 4th time. And Busch is going to have to go to the rear of the field now. God. Turned down right in front of the 138. 138 went for a spin, too. Both cars lost control after the contact. Busch kept it off the wall, but because of causing the accident, we're going to be going towards the back. I honestly didn't know he was there when I moved down. I was letting Aaron Crocker through. I didn't realize. I saw Trigger. It was either Trigger or Stewart, but I saw the Old Spice car behind Crocker. I didn't even see the 138. Fourth caution of the day. Nobody else pitted, so that tells me we're still outside the fuel window to make it to the end of this race. But not by much. Green flag going to be back in the air. Kyle Busch is now the last car on the lead lap after causing the accident. We will punish ourselves. We'll go to the tail end of the field here. 23rd with 35 laps to go at the world center of racing at Daytona International Speedway. Kyle Busch definitely had to have burnt through his tires after that slide as well. Got a couple cars up against the wall off of turn 2. Saw some sparks flying. Busch pulls in line right behind the 117. Oh, they're stacking up big time. I think it's the slow car of Jourdain on the outside that stacked everybody up. 3 wide off of turn 4, just up ahead. And we've got some cars pitting down on the bottom of the track as well. There's John Hamilton. For position, Kyle Busch going to let him go. He's going to drop in line right behind him. And hope he could keep up with John Hamilton just enough. It's going to have to be a very fast 4-tire stop for Kyle Busch if he's going to want to try to cycle out ahead and attempt to win this race. Got some cars pitting this time. A little further towards the front of the field. Kyle Busch is going for it all. It's going to be a 4-tire stop. Kyle Busch trying to get as much time as he could. That was a great pit road entry by Kyle Busch. He gained quite a bit of time there. 4 tires and fuel. Has to take 4 tires because... yeah, I mean, we have to take 4. That slide, my tires were kind of gone after that. It was a good pit road entry, though. And we will see where Kyle Busch will cycle. He was 3.5 seconds off the lead, but he gained quite a bit of time into the pits. It's got to be a clean, fast stop here. And 16 seconds. There's Tony Stewart. He was in that lead pack. How quick can Kyle Busch get up to speed now is going to be the next question. He's going to have to hold up the leaders when they get there, so that way he could stay on the lead lap. He came out of the pits with 33 to go. Can he get up to speed quicker than the 33, I guess, of Tony Stewart? I almost said the 20. It's not the Cup Series. It's going to be close. The leaders are coming as well. And Kyle's going to have to make this car wide. Actually, some of the leaders that are right behind him would include Martin Truex Jr. in the 8. Busch going to let Truex go. Was not going to block the leaders that were trying to get up to speed. Truex is not the leader. He has actually already pitted as well, so that's why Kyle Busch is going to let the 8 car go and try to draft behind him. He needs to stay in front of the 60 of Carl Edwards, though, because Edwards is the race leader. Truex going to run the bottom. That's what Kyle Busch wants. Busch gave him a big bump draft on the back straightaway as well. So the 8 and the 5 trying to really work together here. Can Kyle Busch complete a comeback? Restarted in 23rd, got up to 20th right before he pitted. Thankful that Truex is running the inside. Caution right now would be huge. Because knowing that a lot of these cars have already pit, there's going to be quite a few lap down, and only 3 of them are on the lead lap that pit, which would be Busch, Truex, and Stewart. So it was a very fast pit stop from the 5 of Kyle Busch. And a great pit road entry, which has kept Kyle Busch in this race to some extent, as he currently sits in 18th. Stewart would be 16th, so the top 15 cars still have to hit pit road. We'll see. Busch giving Truex another big push. They're slowly catching Tony Stewart. Problem is, Carl Edwards is staying in the draft with the 8 and the 5. Well, he was. Busch just ran his fastest lap of the race that last time by. Michael Jordan Jr. will be caught at least 2 more times in this race. Busch has to hope he gets through him pretty quickly. The problem is, though, is if he gets through him too quickly and nobody else is able to follow Busch, or Busch can't follow anybody past him, and he's not going to have anybody to draft with, which is only problematic for now until everybody hits pit road for the final time. There's quite a few cars coming out of the pits. Down on the bottom of the racetrack right now. Leaders all going towards the outside. Around the lappers that are down on the bottom. Kyle Busch with a big run on the back straightaway. He's going to pull out a line to get by Martin Truex Jr. going into turn 3. He's going to make the pass for position. And now we'll follow Tony Stewart, the 33, as he has caught him. We'll see if Truex will be able to hang on. We know Stewart is already pit as well. And Stewart has been one driver who has liked to run the bottom most of the day. Brian Vickers will pit. Race leader Carl Edwards still out on the track. Arzon Boyd, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, just turn the jet boosters. Stewart just checked up. Kyle Busch tried to give Tony Stewart a big push, but Michael Jordan Jr. in the 10 was holding him up. And Kyle Busch is up to 12th, but he doesn't have any drafting help for the time being. Edwards got by Jordan pretty quickly as well. More of the leaders down on the bottom of the track. Truex to the inside of the 33 of Stewart. Busch is going to stay on the inside. He's going to let Tony get by up high if Stewart can complete the run with the momentum. Trying to make sure the 8 doesn't slide up into line. Oh, big block. Big block. Busch almost wrecked himself and Martin Truex Jr. And Edwards now has a run. Truex goes a lap down. Stewart's going to ride the outside lane. Busch has to go down to block the 60. Edwards stays out another lap as he continues to lead. May end up leading the most in this race. Martin led a lot early. Edwards has led almost every lap since the most recent restart. Really, the last 2 restarts. Tony Stewart is now running the outside lane, though, after getting held up by Jourdain. Carl Edwards to the inside of the racetrack. He is going to try to get by Stewart. Busch going to have to try to draft with the 60. Edwards going all the way down to the bottom of the racetrack. Kyle Busch drafting with the race leader. Edwards looks to be pitting this time. Edwards is coming in. Busch back on the lead lap, as well as Truex and Stewart. Where will all the leaders cycle? Erin Crocker leads her first lap of the race. 5 bonus points for her. Busch going to let Stewart in the 33 go. And try to draft in line behind him. And hoping he can keep up. I don't know that he's going to. Kyle Busch getting a push there for Martin Truex Jr. as he just pulled up in front of him at the right time. That really helped. That was a massive shot the 8 gave the 5. Mark Martin has cycled out ahead of Tony Stewart and Kyle Busch. We know Martin's got a fast car. We'll see if the 33 and the 5 can try to keep up with the 9. And we'll see also where Carl Edwards will cycle out of the pits this time by. I would have to think. I'd have to think that Edwards is going to be the leader. Kyle Busch just shoving Tony Stewart into turn 3. So Kenny Wallace is up to second. What a fast stop by the 22 as he cycles ahead of Mark Martin. And Kyle Busch gave Tony Stewart such a big push. He might have pushed him out too far, and now Stewart may drive away with the 22 and the 9. Truex just got the wall off turn 4. He gets stalled up. Can Kyle Busch keep up with Stewart? I think he gave the 33 too big of a push. And now he's on the outside with Martin. There's Junior. Kyle Busch has raced his way all the way back to 6th after restarting 23rd with just 35 laps to go. He's going to have to try to draft with Erin Crocker, who's coming out of the pits. It's actually pretty good that Erin Crocker came out of the pits when she did, because Kyle Busch had lost Tony Stewart, Mark Martin, and Kenny Wallace. Oh, he scrapes the wall a little bit, though, off turn 4. That's not good. Almost lost Erin Crocker. He's got a little tight. Crocker running the outside, which is not what Kyle Busch wants. Truex running the bottom. He has been most of this run, at least. Not before that, though. He's starting to close in. Edwards is pulled away, and then it's second on back. Trying to control the rest of the field here. Mark Martin, Tony Stewart will get by Kenny Wallace through turns 3 and 4 for positions 2 and 3 on the racetrack. And Stewart also trying to get to the inside of the 9. Almost did it. Busch staying with the 6 of Crocker. Crocker going down towards the bottom. Into turns 1 and 2, but she does not stay there. She's getting a nice pull off the back bumper of Kenny Wallace's race car off turn 2. Busch, he's got to go for this run because he's getting some momentum on the back straightaway. He's going to pull out of line, trying to get by Erin Crocker. All clear, and now in line behind the 22 of Kenny Wallace, so that's a pass for 5th. Busch has been good on the restarts today. Who knows, maybe we get another caution before the end of this race. Leaders are about 2.5 seconds behind Edwards. They will catch Michael Jourdain Jr. at least one more time, maybe 2, before the end of the race. I'm not sure if Jourdain has to pit or not yet. Busch didn't lift there, but he lost a little bit of ground. Gonna lift a little bit. The pull in line now behind Aaron Crocker heading into 3 and 4. He didn't roll all the way out of the gas, but a little bit to let Crocker through. Had to run on the outside because he lost Kenny Wallace in the middle of the corner. Wallace just had a big run behind Tony Stewart. It was too much for Kyle Busch to try to hang on to. Luckily, Busch has another car behind him as well, Truex. That'll help him keep up with Crocker yet. Crocker down to the bottom, as is the 3 cars in front of her. Busch, Truex to the inside as well. Busch again pulling out of line. Gets by Crocker for 5th. Can he stay with Kenny Wallace? Tony Stewart, Mark Martin this time. Edwards is closing in on Michael Jourdain Jr. while trying to stay with Kenny Wallace in the 22. Edwards got held up a little bit. That lead's under 2 seconds. Where will these cars go? Jourdain pulls off the top, down to the bottom. Now he pulls all the way to the top in front of Tony Stewart. And that's going to allow Mark Martin and Kyle Busch to get to 2nd and 3rd. As Stewart got held up big time, as well as Aaron Crocker and Kenny Wallace. And Kyle Busch is with Mark Martin in the 9. And knowing Martin and Edwards are the 2 fastest cars in the race, they may be able to catch the 60. As long as Martin's the lead car, now can Kyle Busch just stay with him is the next question. That worked out perfectly. One and a half seconds off the lead. Jourdain was on the top going into the corner, then pulled to the bottom, and then back to the top. And luckily it made room for Mark Martin and Kyle Busch to make the pass. But do they have enough to catch Carl Edwards in the 60? And hopefully if they do catch him, that Martin and Edwards don't just link up and pull away, which they may try to do because they are teammates. We might win at Daytona? Are you kidding me? Kyle Busch has still not led a single lap this entire race. Halfway out of gas with 15 to go, but remember he came out of the pits with 33 to go, so he should be a few laps to the good on fuel. He's going to get a little bit more aggressive. He's going to bump draft Mark Martin on the back straightaway. Now's the time to really get going here if you're Kyle Busch. This is the run to the checker. Unless we get another restart, but all the lap cars on the inside of the track, it would be hard to get by the leader. .155 that last lap, fastest of the day for Busch, and it's probably because he's following one of the fastest cars in the field and keeping up with him. At least he was, but Mark Martin pulling a little bit in turns 1 and 2. Is Busch going to stay with him? It looks like he barely is going to stay with him. He almost lost Martin. He never lifted. 1 second off the lead, off turn 4. He's got to hope he doesn't push the 9 too much if the 9 gets in the draft of the 60. That's going to be a huge difference maker here. Perfect corner there for Busch. It's going to give Mark Martin a massive shot on the back straightaway. Stays with him into turns 3 and 4 on the bottom. 0.8 of a second now behind race leader Carl Edwards. 12 to go off turn 4. They're slowly closing in. 2 cars faster than 1 at this juncture. If that lead car is about as fast as the leader, which is the case. I mean, of all the drivers that could have been in front of us, if anybody else would have been in front of us, I don't know that we would have a shot to catch Edwards if it wasn't Mark Martin. Or if Martin was leading and Edwards was in front of us. Like, that would be the only way we would have a chance to actually close that gap. But there is a chance. Michael Turner, welcome into the stream. Another push from Kyle Busch to Mark Martin. And he's hitting him square. And he's keeping up with him. He's not launching him way out in front of him either. 0.6 of a second back as they come to 11 laps to go at Daytona. I wish this was the Cup Series so we can end that Cup Series drought. But just the fact I still, like, never win here for the most part, it'd still be a big win. And to keep such a dominant season alive for Busch and make it 3 wins in a row as well. If he can get this win at Daytona. Again, he has not led a single lap. And outside of green flag pit stops, it's been all Edwards and Mark Martin this entire race today. He's going to stay in the share draft behind Martin. He's not going to pull out a line yet. He doesn't feel he's close enough to Edwards, but he just doesn't want Mark Martin and Carl Edwards to link up and pull away. Busch has to be nearly perfect. Oh no, he scrapes the wall. That is not what he needed. He just got too tight. He tried to lift, but it was too late. And he didn't want to lift because he was going to lose him if he lifted anyway. That was a lose-lose situation there. And now Edwards and Martin are getting away. I couldn't do anything there. I had such a big run that the car was shoving up the track. Wow. 9 to go this time by. And if it stays green to the end, that was the race. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything different because if I had lifted in time, I would have lost enough momentum anyway. Wow. Busch is still going to let Tony Stewart get through. Stewart will be the next car. Kyle going to try to let Stewart go off the exit of turn 4. Busch in the wall again. I think that might have slowed Busch's momentum down too much. Or did it? Matt Kenseth out of nowhere. Well, Kenseth is another Roush car. And he might be the next one to follow. The problem is these guys are 4 seconds off the lead already. Busch is free-falling now. Really wants to clear Crocker going into turn 3. He's committed to trying to clear. Luckily, he had enough pace to be able to do so anyway. Kenseth running the upper group, but I think it's because he's trying to catch Tony Stewart in front of him. We're coming down to 7 laps to go. 4.5 seconds off the lead. They should catch Michael Jordan Jr. one more time, but that's not going to slow the leaders down that much. They're not going to lose 4.5 seconds behind him. Kenseth and Stewart starting to draft with each other really well now. Kenseth pulls out a line trying to make a pass underneath Stewart, and that might allow Kyle Busch to hang in there. maybe. Kenseth has cleared Stewart. 1, 2, 3 for Roush Fenway Racing. They earned it. They brought some fast cars to the track today. Unbelievably fast. Kenseth's pulling Stewart. Kyle Busch getting a nice push from Truex, but Stewart's still somewhat close enough behind Kenseth yet. Busch giving up the bottom. It's risky letting cars go now because I'm struggling to keep up with them, but it's my only chance to at least try to get back to third. Just sit in the share draft. Edwards continues to lead. Mark Martin has lost. Busch is tight again and in the wall. My gosh. And now blocks Kenny Wallace and almost wrecked himself. Things are just getting rough in a hurry. This is just so bad. About to catch Jourdain. Top 5 have already gotten by. Kyle Busch trying to get by the 10. The 10's moving up. Oh my gosh, he just wrecked Kyle Busch. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Jesus. He just kept moving up, kept moving up. We were already there, and then he just put us in the wall. It's amazing how quickly that went downhill. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That might end the race. That's the only reason I'm staying out of the pits. Caution came out, 5 laps to go. I think the race is going to come to an end here. Checkered flag is not in the air. We're going to get a green-white checker, I guess. 2 laps to go. Edwards going to have to hold on. Well, Kyle Busch has got back up to 4th. And the Roush cars are pulling away, no surprise. Kyle Busch has some damage after that accident, unfortunately. He's just trying to block for his life right now. 3 wide. If they get to the white flag, there will be no cautions on the final lap. Busch just trying to get a top 5 finish at this point at all costs. Sits in line behind Aaron Crocker into the tri-oval. John Hamilton almost got underneath Kyle Busch. White flag in the air, 1 lap to go. Mark Martin leads after getting by Carl Edwards on the restart. We'll see if Kyle can get one more run at Aaron Crocker for 4th place. He's got a run on the 6. Not enough of a run to get by, though. Checkered flag in the air. Mark Martin is going to win at Daytona. Kyle Busch survives to get a top 5. Man. That was just a frustrating finish. That's got to be the most frustrated I think I've ever been finishing in the top 5. I mean, why did it have to go down like that? Mark Martin is going to get the win. 46 laps led. Edwards led 48. And Eric Crocker led 2 during green flag pit stops. I think Tony Stewart led, I guess we led 1 lap. I don't think I led this entire race. I don't know how I led a lap, but it scored me as the leader. So I guess we got 5 bonus points. I did not lead a lap. I do not remember leading. Because even during green flag pit stops, every time I pitted, there was somebody that always was ahead of me. Man. I was just trying not to wreck those last 2 laps. I wasn't going to risk trying to, wreck trying to catch up to Crocker for 4th. Michael Jourdain Jr. is going to get ripped a new one in the post-race by Kyle Busch. Where was he at? He was 36, 25 laps down. What do you have to block me into the wall for? Bringing out that last caution. Why? He blocked everybody else before that, and then he ended up blocking me into the wall. At least when he was blocking everybody else, holding everybody else up, he wasn't making contact with them. Jeez. I did what I could. I'm not upset by my performance at all. I didn't make any mistakes on my own right. I got into the wall that one time late. There was a couple other times I'd gotten into the wall, but I didn't get into the wall because I made a mistake as much as the car was tight and I knew if I was going to lift. It was a lose-lose situation pretty much every time, because if I were to lift, knowing it's a restrictor plate race, if I were to lift, I was going to lose them off the exit of the corner. And going into the corner, I was able to kind of burp the throttle. Middle of the corner, at times I'd burp the throttle trying to stay in it. But by the exit of the corner, when they're on the throttle, if I lift, I'm going to lose their draft. And if I don't lift, I was going to end up in the wall. Sometimes I was able to steer it enough to get it off the wall, but towards the end of the tire stint, I couldn't do that. And that's why at the end of the race, you saw it happen a couple times. Specifically when I was in 3rd, right behind the leaders with about 10 to go. That was the frustrating one. And then it was a snowball effect from there of just trying to stay in the draft and just getting blown by. And luckily we were able to get another spot or 2 on that last restart and get up to 5th. But 1, 2, 3 finish for Roush Fenway Racing though. They earned it. They deserved the win. Yeah, I'm not upset with my performance at all. I think I drove a good race. I didn't have the fastest car either. If I didn't hit the wall, it was going to be interesting to see if I was actually going to be able to keep up with Mark Martin and Carl Edwards before that last caution obviously came out. I mean, knowing that we were going to catch Jourdain another time, if I just could have held, even if I was in 3rd and couldn't pass him, maybe there was a chance that Jourdain would have held them up instead of me. You never know. I mean, that would have been my best chance to pass them. It worked once. Second time it didn't work, obviously. We were in a different circumstance than what we could have been in. Yeah, I wouldn't say I blew it. I didn't lead a single lap the entire race. I did not have... I qualified 3rd, and honestly, that was about as fast of a car I had. Matt Kenseth was kind of back in traffic. He qualified 18th, so he started a lot further back than obviously not only me, but than Martin and Edwards did also. I think that was for the better. I think he had, let's be honest, he had to be silenced. I'm surprised my patience lasted as long as it did. He's been trashing me for like 4 straight streams. Even last night he was trashing me and I wasn't even racing. We were just watching a race. I can handle the heat from time to time. I couldn't tell if he was like 80 and senile or if he was 10 just trolling. Alright, we had a lot of DNFs. I didn't realize we had that many. Casey Kane, Michael Jordan Jr. technically finished. Unless he crashed out under that last caution, I have no clue. I don't think he did, but... Clint Boyer, he wrecked twice. The second one, he actually DNF'd. The first one, he didn't. Clark, Richardson, J.J. Yaley, Shields, Norton, Clayton, all DNF. There are a lot of DNFs at Daytona tonight. A 100-lap race, and we had 9 DNFs. .23 cars finished on the lead lap. 1/10 of a second margin to victory. Let's see here. 1 hour, 54 minutes total time of the race. 5 cautions, 15 caution laps. Only 9 lead changes, but again, that's because Roush dominated this race. I mean, I was hoping maybe their engines would give out because they were running so fast. That did not happen. I think it being a 100-lap race, they were able to make it. 130.66 miles per hour average race speed. They earned it. 1, 2, 3 finish. That's as dominating of a super speedway race you're going to see by an organization in any series. 1, 2, 3, and they led all but 4 laps in the entire race. Honestly, all but 3, because I didn't actually lead a lap, so they led all but 3 laps in this race. And that was because of green flag pit stops. Eric Crocker was able to lead 2. Tony Stewart was able to lead 2. Yeah, see, that doesn't make any sense either. Look at this. If you add, it gave me an extra lap led. We only ran 100 laps, but it gave me a lap led somewhere in there, which tallies to 101. So, yeah, that goes to show that's just an error that the game had. But all but 4 laps led. All but 4 laps led. Okay, well, Brian Vickers finished 6th. Solid run for him. And the next race will be at Old Spice Speedway, I believe tomorrow night. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard start time tomorrow night. And we'll be racing at Old Spice Speedway. So with Boyer crashing out, we're going to grow our points lead even more with a 5th place finish today. Keeping the hot streak alive, even with the top 5. Jesus, 441. Green, white checker. I don't know, though, because the caution came out with 5 laps left. Unless there was less than that. I thought it was 5 to go. Usually it's 3 laps for a caution. Probably why we restarted with 2 to go still. Yeah, Vickers is in 2nd in points, though, finishing 6th. So 1-2 in points for HMS. 441. Well, I mean, we're on pace to, like, clinching this championship, like, 6 races early. Tell you what, anything that I don't have to race Talladega in the season finale. He's hidden because he keeps trolling in the chat. It was the same account as the dialysis. It's not the same account as the dialysis merch, but it's the same guy. Or kid or whoever. Alrighty. I mean, it was pretty obvious it was the same person, too, because he was talking about the apron situation the other night, just like the other account was. Like, it wasn't even, like, a clever way to... And it literally has the same last name for both of them. Alright, well... Yeah, that's the point standings, though. We have, like, almost a 4-race lead in the point standings right now. Crazy. Well, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. It was still a good race, nonetheless. Just, unfortunately, probably could have finished 3rd or 4th. It would have been tough to beat the Roush Fenway Fords at the end. Again, I'm not upset with the run. I didn't have the fastest car. But yeah, that's gonna be it. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow night, 6. I don't know, man. I'm mentally taxed after the finish of that race. I don't usually get upset like that, but that was just so frustrating. It's frustrating because of how close I come to winning at Daytona so many times and I can't win. And I think that's why it blew over. That, and it didn't help that I had a troll in the chat, and I usually don't let that get to me, but I think everything kind of like boiled into one. Everything just kind of came on a collision course at once, and I don't know. At least we got a top 5. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your support as always. As always, on the road to becoming a NASCAR commentator for future real races in the NASCAR realms. And have some more great off-season content coming your way. And then at the start of next year, we'll get right back into the live commentary streams as usual. Once again, have a good rest of your Friday night, everybody. Enjoy the start to your weekend.